The following program is rated GE. It is suitable for general family viewing.
Welcome to Beyond the Limit. As always, my name is Linda Alela. It's good to have you. So today's episode of Beyond the Limit takes us to the Federation of Deaf Women Empowerment Network that sits in Nairobi West. And we want to have a conversation with the director and the founder of this institution. Her name is Asar Josephine. Asar Josephine will be speaking to us about her own story, as well as, just how, she began this incredible entity that focuses on helping and holding the hands of ladies that are deaf and just walking them the journey of life. And she will share her story. She is deaf as well, and we'll be having an assistance from the other end. Pamela Wango will be our sign language interpreter, so that we get to have this conversation going. Thank you so much for hosting us, Asar.
Okay, so I know you've heard my name is Asar. I'm deaf. So I'm a 50-year-old. So I'm not a .com, I'm not a Gen Z, but I don't know. Maybe I can fit somewhere in the other categories. I'm a mother of 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. So I have many hats. I wear many hats. I'm the first deaf woman advocate for people to access higher education. I left vocational training and I advocated for myself to go to high school. I'm also a GBV survivor, and also I'm a cancer warrior. As you can see me here, I'm a strong woman. I'm also the founder of the Federation of Deaf Women Empowerment Network, which we call FEDWIN. So this organization advocates for rights of deaf women and girls in areas of sexual reproductive health and GBV.
Beautiful. Asar must know that she's beautiful and fairly bubbly. She looks like a typical Gen Z. It's good to hear your story. It's good to just get to know the great things that you're doing, not just for yourself as a deaf woman, but basically for the entire society, the girls that are deaf. Why girls?
So I started advocating for deaf girls because I experienced so many challenges as a deaf girl. As I was growing up, deaf people were not allowed to sign, were not allowed to use sign language. We had so many challenges. We experienced so much violence. The rate of violence against deaf women is generally high. So looking at this situation, I felt that the deaf girl child does not need to experience what I went through. So after I finished my high school education, I joined the Kenya National Association of the Deaf, where I worked as the regional coordinator. And I was also responsible for women issues. But that time, I saw that the rate of GBV was really, really high. And I was wondering how I could help to bring a solution to these issues, because it was difficult for me to handle everything on my own. I had senior management who were not handling these issues properly. So I left after my contract was over, and I started my own organization to advocate for issues of deaf women, because I saw that the hearing people, they have organizations that voice and advocate for them. But as the deaf community, we don't have that. And most of them, even in the hearing world, they're not able to communicate to us through sign language. So I decided to form my organization to eliminate GBV, to advocate for people to access health services, and also to mentor parents of deaf children to know how to work with their children. Because when you empower deaf children, whenever they face maybe abuse or any other challenges, they're able to speak up. So we are able to reduce this vice. Yeah.
All right, picking from your story, Asar, I realized that it was a very difficult space for you at that tender age and growing up, and what it is that you had to go through. Just how easy was it for you to penetrate, these institutions, penetrate, knock doors, and make sure that you set up your own amidst all these difficulties, and convince the world that beyond your difficulties, you can as well address the difficulties of very many other girls that are deaf?
So honestly, when you are accessing different institutions, maybe to advocate for the rights of deaf people or looking for resources, we have a lot of challenges, because as a deaf person, people see me my disability first. They see my disability before they even see me. They forget that God created me as Asar, My disability came second. So people wonder, as a deaf person, is she able to do this? And many times, in the donor world especially, they feel it's better to give to a person who is hearing, who will come and talk on behalf of the deaf people. And they forget that we are the shoe wearers, we know where it pains. So institutions like women advocacy groups, when we try to work together, they feel, how will we work with deaf people? So we are never affected with that issue because you're not a person with disability. So you cannot have a problem accessing health services like I do. You're not totally deaf, so they're not able to advocate for us comprehensively. So those are the challenges that we face. And even parents, when we try to work with parents of deaf children, the problem comes up when they feel and they wonder, yes, you're asking, but this child is deaf. This child is deaf. So that is the perception that many times we have, which is very challenging. So people who honestly understand us are teachers of deaf children, because teachers understand that many times they are responsible for the welfare of deaf children. And even internationally, the donor world, you would say that it's a bit of a challenge, and local donors also, getting resources from local donors is a challenge. So most of the time we are voicing alone, we are advocating for issues alone. We don't have a lot of coordination with other groups. And the way they care for people with other disabilities, like people with physical challenges and people who are blind, it's different from the deaf community because of our communication issues.
And I'm curious, because numbers will always help you, succeed. In most cases, people look at numbers and say, all right, well, the population is quite high, and therefore there's a gap, there is a need, as opposed to when the numbers are a bit low. Could you please share, the population, of course, especially when we're talking about deaf and girls, for that matter, especially with the institution that you're running. I mean, what is the population like? How many girls are you working with?
The population of deaf people in Kenya is over 2 million as at now, and this census is from the World Health Organization, not from the Kenya census which we did in 2019, because it did not capture us effectively. Besides that, the data which we have currently, following our numbers, honestly, FEDWIN, we have 1,200 members who are registered with us, and I'm talking also about the people who are in the village who are not able to access resources or information. So we need to have resources for us to do our own data collection, because if we honestly had resources, then we would be able to collect data comprehensively. But because we are not that well resourced, we cannot be able to know how many deaf people are women in Kenya. And also, currently, what we have been able to provide, the services that we have been able to provide, comparing with the older days when we were not able to access education, we were not able to go to the rural settings. So now there is better access generally. So if we're talking about the numbers of deaf people, people always feel that we are a small number if you compare maybe with the hearing world, because hearing people are so many and the number speaks louder. But we forget that if we marginalize the smaller populations, we will never succeed in our agendas. So that's a very big challenge we have as a deaf community.
Beautiful. Is this something that you are extending beyond Kenya? I mean, are you having conversations, like you mentioned, donors, across the global fraternity, perhaps Africa? Because evidently there is a gap.
So yes, we do have, most people who support our work, to be honest, are not even local donors. The local donors we have, they support us once, and it's UNDP. UNDP Mkeni wa Kenya. They were the donor who built our capacity from nothing to where we are to something. So currently we work with international donors, and we have well-wishers who support us. We have a well-wisher who has supported us for 5 years, who is an international donor. They have seen our work on our website, and also we have been able to fill the application forms, and they accepted to work with us. So currently we have 3 donors. We have African Women Development Fund, who is supporting us for 2 years. We have HIVOS, the SRHR Fund, who is supporting us for 1 year with a possible extension. And we are hoping and praying that it will happen. And also we have Black Feminist Fund. So Black Feminist Fund is God sent, according to us, because they have supported us for 5 years on a 5-year project. and those are international donors. So we are hoping that we can have also other partners who can strengthen our capacity to be able to do our work fruitfully. And also we have a network with deaf people in Africa. In Tanzania, for instance, we work with deaf women there. In Rwanda, we work with the Association for Deaf Women. In Congo also, as we are building our network to spread across other African countries, especially deaf women, we are also very close with the network of deaf women in Sweden because they have supported our GBV work. And also the Indian deaf women, we have a close relationship. We communicate often, we exchange resources and ideas on especially deaf women issues. Also, the World Federation of the Deaf, we have a good working relationship.
Beautiful. I am curious of the activities that you undertake, both with the girls as well as with society, because creation of awareness, shunning off of stigma is very, very important. So could you please walk us through what it is that you do briefly?
Okay, so with deaf women, I've explained we do a lot of advocacy, but in the society generally, we work with health workers and other frontline survivors because when deaf women want to give birth, for example, they have a big communication barrier there. So we do deaf mainstreaming training to make communication accessible when we are going to the hospital or other healthcare facilities, because it has forced us also to work even with the police, because when you have a GBV issue, communication again is an issue there, because sometimes they even focus more on the abuser because they can talk than the person who is using sign language. So we do deaf mainstreaming training. We also work with chiefs and other local authorities to be able to strengthen their capacity on deaf issues, so that when a deaf person comes, they know how to handle them and know how to serve them, because we are part and parcel of the community and we also have everyday challenges. So when they're able to understand us, it makes us easier. We also advocate with the government of Kenya, with different ministries, to make sure that they know how to coordinate with deaf organizations to understand the challenges we have as a...
What about the girls themselves?
Deaf girls themselves, we empower them mostly. Currently, we are empowering them to be able to understand their rights. So we are working with schools of the deaf. So we are working with both deaf girls and boys because we want them to understand their sexual and reproductive health. We do this through experiential learning, that is art and drama. We use experiences for them to be able to understand, because we find that mostly deaf girls and youth, before they were very silent, they're not able to express themselves. But when you strengthen their capacity, they're able to share. And also, in some different countries, we always communicate with them to be able to access training on how we can be able to empower different communities to stand up for themselves, and it's going on well. But the country is so big. Kenya as a country is so big. We are not able to reach everybody, but we are implementing and we are doing our best.
All right, I know you're not a medic. Allow us to take a quick short break.
Maybe just before you continue, I'd like to share a story. There was another abuse that was happening in a school for the deaf. And the mistake was that our principal, the man who was managing the school, it was an integrated school. So we have a school in Nyanza where the principal has been abusing the deaf girls there for a very long time, and it's sexual abuse. And for a long time, from the year 2021 till date, the deaf community went there to strike and advocate. So we decided that we have advocated and striked for a long time, but we're not able to get the results. So we discussed with the parents, we collected evidence, and we have been working with the TSC. They have done their research and they found that the principal was interjected from the school. So there are so many deaf girls who face abuse. And it's an eye-opener for TSC and the Ministry of Education also, that this silent abuse that deaf girls are facing within the school needs to be addressed, because most deaf schools are actually boarding schools.
Oh, you listen to some of these stories and you can never get to understand until, you get into those shoes. And into those shoes we get out of the stories that we get to hear from the guests that we have. Allow us to take a short break, and of course we have so much more that we would love to learn in relation to this organization, but beyond that, in relation to how best as a society we can take care of our girls, those ones that are deaf, after this break. Welcome back to Beyond the Limit. The conversation is just how best we can come out as society to take care of the persons that are deaf in the community. But we narrow it down, or we take a bias on the girls. And we are speaking to the director of the Federation of Deaf Women Empowerment Network right here in the country. Asar, once again, we come to you, of course, from that sad story. I pick that you have a lot of challenges that you go through. I mean, in terms of just creating that belief that indeed we have deaf girls that are going through difficult times. But beyond that, in just making sure that you penetrate and get to them, could you please share some of these challenges?
So the challenges that we face, most of the time, some schools, they don't want us to access the institution and we cannot force them. And the second challenge that we face is sometimes when we get an issue about abuse, especially in schools, when we are going there to hear their stories, we try to even petition with other teachers and bodies like the Teacher Service Commission and the Ministry of Education, and it's sad that most of the time they don't believe us. Because as an NGO and a civil society organization, they feel like we're looking for avenues to get money, but we are looking for equal rights. So when, like this story of the school where there was a case of gender-based violence, we started in 2021, but we were only able to achieve results in 2024 because when we approached the Teacher Service Commission, they asked us, where is the evidence? Why are you accusing him? So we went back as a civil society organization. We collect evidence around the month of May, and it was a slow process. And TSC was telling us that they're doing their own investigation. They had gotten evidence also, but we had to push them still to act. So now imagine a man who is over the age of 50, he's given responsibility to care for the primary school learners who are around 15 years old, and not even one, but many. And the victims were around 12 girls. So the Teacher Service Commission was doing things very slowly, and even after they got the evidence, they interjected the man, yes, but there was no further action. One of the learners is already pregnant and she has given birth. I don't know if it's from a different person, but the fact is that the principal had been having sex with the learners at that school, yet he was given the responsibility to care for the girls at the school. The parents are aware because most of our schools are boarding schools, and they are saying that we are bringing these issues, but there is no evidence. But how do you expect a deaf girl in school, a boarding school at that, who does not even know what to do to keep evidence or go and collect evidence to present later after school has been closed? They were asking us, when we approached the police, they were asking us, why didn't you report earlier? But if you look at the institution and the structures the way they are, they don't allow us. There are so many barriers that bar us from accessing justice. People saying that deaf people should speak for themselves, the deaf girl should speak for herself, but she cannot because she needs a sign language interpreter. They say we don't trust the sign language interpreter. So sometimes we have so many challenges when we're trying to access justice, which I would like to recommend one thing, like the Siaya County Commissioner is the only person, God bless him, he's the only one who helped us so much. When we accessed the children's office, they listened to us, they helped us a lot also, and later when we approached the Siaya County Commissioner, we were able to get some tangible resources and results. But the first step, when we approached the Teacher Service Commission, they were not supportive of us. They were asking us for evidence, and they gave us a lot of bureaucracy.
How far are we in terms of having this talk of, getting sign language lessons in school?
So as FEDWIN, with the Kenya Nationalization of the Deaf, with other deaf partners, we are working together to advocate for this issue. Currently in Parliament, we have the KSL bill, the Kenya Sign Language Bill, which we are pushing for to be approved. If this bill is approved, then I feel the standing of the deaf community in terms of access to sign language interpretation will be easier, and it will be regulated to make sure that sign language interpreters everywhere are able to access quality learning, that we are able to get qualified sign language interpreters without any challenges. Currently, the Constitution says that we need to access, but the implementation is slow and we are not moving as a community. And also at the same time, the Ministry of Health needs to have materials that are sign language friendly or deaf centered. So in different even institutions where they're being trained, the healthcare workers, they need to be trained before they graduate and finish their learning. So we are advocating even with the police colleges to like, for example, as an institution, I have trained before at Kiganjo police station. I have trained some police officers there in sign language, but they say that we need to have this from the national level to be escalated down for it to be implemented in all the colleges. So as an organization, it's very difficult for us to advocate for such change. But with the KSL bill, if it becomes a law, then I feel it would be easier to advocate for change, and even from sign language training to even the schools, how they employ the teachers working in the deaf institutions, and even other institutions to be able to do deaf mainstreaming.
Beautiful. It must be expensive to be deaf. You talk about sign language. How much more for, basically the health aspects? I mean, is there any form of medication that one has to get? Are there levels? I mean, deaf and dumb, some say, partially deaf and all this.
So sign language is a bit expensive, yes, but not very expensive. If people were able to learn sign language in college, it would be easier, because I don't support sign language interpretation in medical settings because some issues are sensitive. If it's a one-on-one engagement, it's easier for us as a deaf community. But we have 3 different types of deaf people. So we don't say deaf and dumb. We have deaf and dumb.
I know. I mean, and I was expecting for that to come. It's the typicality, and I don't even know whether typicality is English, but basically what is in society today. I can hear bits of what Asar is saying. And for a moment, I'm asking myself, how is that even possible that I can hear basically what she says, yet I don't know whether you can hear anything of what I say.
Okay, maybe let me explain the situation of deafness. So we don't say dumb, because people assume if you cannot talk, you are dumb, I don't know, mute, whatever word they use. The World Federation of the Deaf says that if a person is a sign language user, which means that I can communicate through sign language, I'm not dumb, because I can communicate to you. Yeah, because we can talk through sign language. Maybe I can't be able to talk like a hearing person, but I can be able to communicate. So we have 3 different types of deaf people. We have those who are born deaf, which means that from when they were born, they were not able to hear. And then we have another, so maybe when they get to the age of 3 years, their sign language is different. The way they communicate is different because they were not able to hear anything. They were not able to access any spoken language. Their only language is Kenya Sign Language. Okay. So you can't call them dumb still, even if they have never spoken. Then we had those who maybe became deaf at around the age of 9, like myself. I had consumed some language. I know a bit of mother tongue, but I cannot speak Kiswahili. So I speak English because I was able to learn when I was in school. I use sign language and English. I understand mother tongue, so I have 3 languages, which are mine as a deaf person. And then we have a third group of people who became deaf above the age of 12. So they are rich in language because they know sign language, they know English, they know their mother tongue, they know Kiswahili, maybe even they know other languages like French if they were able to access that. And most of the time, they are not comfortable accepting themselves as deaf people. And then we have another category entirely, which is hard of hearing. Hard of hearing is maybe one ear can hear and one cannot. And most of the time, it's caused by sickness, which impairs one ear. So when the weather is cold, you could find that the ear that is not hearing can have so many challenges depending on the weather. So we have 3 categories of deaf people, and we have hard of hearing. So we do not have any dumb people in the deaf community. We have hard of hearing. Yes, so those are the 4 types of deaf people that we have.
This is one of the reasons why we say some of these lessons should go all the way back to school, elementary level, because I mean, these are some of the things that we were taught in school, and it's rather unfortunate, hearing of these cases, and we must appreciate it when it's coming from the horse's mouth, and therefore thank you so much, Asar, for that correction as well. So before we come to a close, let us appreciate that we have your institution, your entity, your organization that is doing tremendously well. The reasons why it keeps running is because there must be something successful about this whole journey up until now. Let's share the success stories so far. I know, because these are the ones that keep us, targeting to ensure that we win the fight.
So maybe from the success stories, I can share that right now, We have parents who are able to communicate with their children. They have accepted that change. They have had that shift. They can even be able to sign. And we have some from the institutions. They have learned from institutions, some from their children. So some have been able to accept the condition that their children have. We've also been able to transform a community attitude. So accessing, like for example, secondary school education, I'm the person who advocated. I was the first person to join high school. And now we have very many high schools for the deaf. And in Kenya. In Kenya, we have very many high schools right now because of the struggles that we did. So now we even have a bit of mainstreaming in tertiary institutions, although not so high. So when I was young, I was mainstreamed in hearing schools. We were four girls in a hearing school. We were the first to be put into a deaf school. But now we have so many that deaf people can be able to access equal education as other people. So that is my first success. That I'm very proud of advocating for that. And the police integration work, we have been able to mainstream, and now we have a few police in different institutions who can sign within the police station, and I feel I can congratulate them for that. On issues of government institutions trying to employ sign language interpreters within their offices, I can at least say that we're able to access. At the bank level, I have seen that we don't have interpreters, but they're trying to communicate with us. We have been able to empower their capacity, to strengthen their capacity. Even we have done some deaf mainstreaming with the Makadara Law Court to be able to make it accessible to deaf people. We work closely with them. We have strengthened their capacity. We have developed a partnership so that if a deaf person is violated or faces abuse, we are able to support their process of accessing justice. So we are very happy about that. And also at the school level, we have developed some materials which we provide to the schools to empower we are currently working with 5 schools of deaf children, and we are teaching them about human rights and sexual reproductive health, both in the school setting and even out of school. So far, those are some of the challenges, some of the successes that we've been able to achieve. We also share so much information on our social media platforms to be able to empower deaf communities to know their rights.
Yes, on the social media platforms, you will see them down there. I don't know, sign language is crazy, eh? Sometimes you want to say like this. I don't know whether that is to say, congratulations, thank you so much, you're doing a great job. I hope that is good sign language. Oh, congratulations. See the difference? But well, we appreciate you so much. So Asar Josephine, as well as your institution, FEDWIN, thank you so much for what it is that you're doing. Please keep at it. That is a success story because, amidst all the difficulties, Beyond the Limit is about unraveling the beauty of the struggles, unraveling the beauty of the push to celebrate and appreciate and always make sure that we make the best of life for persons that are having elements of difficulties. My name is Linda Lela. It was great having you, and once again looking forward to see you again next Saturday on another incredible episode of Beyond the Limit. As at now we close it at 8. Once again, Pamela Wangu was a sign language interpreter. Thank you so much, as well as Asar Josephine, the director of FEDWIN Kenya. Thank you so much.